After Jesus is named and claimed at his baptism, and indeed, by God, he is named and claimed. Hearing God declare him to be, "You are my son, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." After Luke reports Jesus' genealogy, referencing a lineage that connects Jesus to the great pioneers of the faith, including Noah, Abraham, and David, Jesus is ready. Jesus is ready to go out into the world, secure in the knowledge of who he is spiritually and socially. If we were talking about our day, Jesus has been ordained. He knows what he's got to do, and he's ready to go. Spiritually, he is filled with the Holy Spirit, and he is identified as the Son of God. Socially, based upon that lineage, he is an honorable man whose family of spiritual heroes confers upon him automatic standing and authority in his faith tradition. And it is not clear if Jesus chose to make a trek through the wilderness. Luke reports that Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness. But remember, wherever he's led, Jesus is ready. Jesus is strong. He knows who and whose he is. And thanks to Luke, we know who Jesus is. And at this point, when Jesus is at his strongest, most confident about who he is and what his calling is, the devil comes to tempt him. Now, I know a few of us want to know if the devil came to him in physical form, or if the devil actually spoke to Jesus. And a few of us may be even wondering what the devil looks like. But I want to caution us here. I want you to put away the red suit and the fork. I want to caution us here. Whether the devil appeared in physical form or as a spirit really doesn't matter, because the effect is the same. When the devil appears, there is temptation. There is confrontation. There is disorientation at the very moment when the way forward seems so clear and purposeful. I imagine that Jesus was clear about what he had to do. But the devil, regardless of how he shows up, is all about temptation and confrontation and disorientation. So let's not get distracted, because however the devil appears, Jesus is in danger. That's right, Jesus is in danger. The word devil reveals clearly who and what it is that is targeting Jesus, and that's it. The devil is targeting him. The devil knows exactly who to go to. The devil, that word devil can be translated as adversary, or opposer, or slanderer. Yeah, that's right. See, devil just calls you out your name. Slanderer. The devil is accuser, just always pointing the finger at you. The devil is one who obstructs. Now, you know you've met some devils in your life. That's who the devil is. And so whatever he is and however he appears, the devil does not confront Jesus to help him, no matter what you hear. The devil does not confront Jesus to facilitate Jesus' ministry. Whatever the devil tells you, that's not what his goal is. No, the devil seeks to shake Jesus loose from his truest identity. Remember, Jesus was just baptized, and God said, "You are my son, the beloved, and who I'm well pleased." So the devil is here to shake Jesus loose from who he is. And what is quite clear, regardless of what form the devil comes in, what is quite clear is that there is a force in the cosmos that opposes God. There is something out there that opposes the good, a force that wants us to distrust God, a force that wants to disconnect us from what is good, from what is God, a force that says that you are not made in the image of God. It's out there. And that devil, that force, that opposer is so bold that it even comes for Jesus. It comes for Jesus. And notice how the devil works. Again, I know some of us have an image in our minds of the devil and demons we've seen portrayed in horror films. It took me a while to get over that. I always want to picture the little girl in The Exorcist. That's always in my mind. I get scared. But I want, we have the devil with a gory visage that tips us off, that danger is lurking. But that's not how the tempter works. Notice how the devil works here. The devil approaches Jesus to address a real need. Jesus is hungry. And the devil knows that Jesus is hungry. And the devil is logical in reason. Boy, you hungry, get some bread. Reasonable, logical. The devil knows that Jesus is hungry, and so he suggests something that will satiate the hunger. No, he's not frightening, he's not gory, he's actually reasonable. He actually makes sense. But then it gets a little bit weirder. The devil then pretends to own what belongs to God. Pretends to own and then has the audacity to offer it to Jesus. A little sleight of hand there. Not gory and frightening, but almost logical. But he pretends to own what God owns and has the audacity to offer to Jesus what God can only provide. He then seeks to tempt Jesus away from his relationship with God, with his kinship with God, his trust in God's provision. Tells him, trust me. I'm reasonable. I'm logical. Trust what I tell you. And so through flattery and admiration, you heard him flattering Jesus. Through flattery and false admiration, the devil invites Jesus to forget who and whose he is. He tells Jesus to think only of himself. Think only of your own hunger. Think only of your own power. Think only of your own safety, as if God is not even there. As if God is not even able to do anything for you. Trust your own self. Save yourself from your danger. Feed yourself. Take possession of all the kingdoms of the world. Take what you want and take what you need to preserve your own self. Do all of this, but only for and by your hand. In essence, what the devil tells Jesus and what the devil tells all of us is to be God. Be God. Trust your own self. Do it yourself. Be God. And so Jesus in that wilderness has to face a few questions that strike at the very heart of his own identity as God's beloved. Are you really the one who was named and claimed by God? Is that really you? Are you truly the beloved Son of God in whom God is well pleased? I'm going to be honest with you. It gets tough for me in a culture where the Avengers and Black Panther and Captain America and Wonder Woman and Harry Potter, they fight the forces of evil with special powers. I want special powers. They have an expectation of their own special calling. that makes them uniquely capable of vanquishing evil. I want to be Harry Potter. I want to be Captain America. I want to use power. But see, that's the thing. And even if I don't do it, I'm reading the story, and I want Jesus to jump into some live action superhero move and use some kind of proton blast and get the devil out of his way. I want some power. But in his wilderness, in his confrontation with the tempter, Jesus does not exhibit miraculous divine power. Jesus doesn't throw up his hands to stop the devil. Jesus does not fight or resist the devil even with his own power or even with his own words. What does Jesus do? Jesus points to God. Even in his own identity, even if he's sure about who he is, when the temptation comes, Jesus does not use his own power. Jesus points to the one who is. He points to God. Jesus recalls the words and the promises through which God revealed God's self. In response to every temptation, Jesus responds by quoting God, by worshiping God, by looking to God. His resistance to the devil is not by his own will. His resistance to the devil is by his trust in God. Oh, I know, Pastor, I want something a little bit more concrete. I want something I can do. Jesus did it, resisted by his trust in God. Have you noticed those occasions when someone has made a big mistake or failed in some spectacular way, when they seemed at their most secure and their most successful? And most often you see it happens to celebrities and politicians. Sometimes when they were at the peak of their popularity and the pinnacle of success, they succumb to some moral, criminal, or personal temptation. And consider our own journeys. How when we are at our very best, our strongest, our most comfortable, our most confident, out of nowhere, a wilderness moment strikes. It hits. And it is a wilderness filled with temptations. It is filled with those invitations to take risks and chances that may not be good for us, or that may be just downright terrible. When everything we think we are is challenged, such that we are left wondering, who were we at all? I thought I was strong. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could withstand temptation. But here's the thing, even Jesus' own experience tells us none of us is immune to the seductions and the influence of the tempter. None of us is. And when temptation comes, it may not even be obvious. That which opposes God will likely have an answer to a very real need in our lives. That which opposes God is likely going to suggest options that sound good and reasonable. That which opposes God will likely convince us to submit and worship the idols that make us feel good or powerful or popular. That which opposes God will likely convince us that we are not enough. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not pretty enough. We're just not enough for anything. And then before we realize it, the devil has convinced us to forget God and become our own gods. And in all of that noise and in all that distraction, we sometimes forget the most powerful truth that God has named and claimed each and every one of us. That no matter where you are in that wilderness and no matter how many temptations come before you, you have never stopped being the beautiful and beloved child of God. You've never stopped being that. No matter what the tempter tells you, no matter how the temptations move you, you have never stopped being the beloved of God. That God has created us in the divine image and remains the source of all that we shall ever need. Yes, we are surrounded by temptation. And unfortunately, it is when we are sure who and whose we are that the tempter comes calling. Yes, I believe when we are strong, when we know who we have a target on our backs. It's just the reality. Things can be going well until we find ourselves in that wilderness, a wilderness of our own making, or one that simply appeared when we least expected it. And some of us have a good fight in us. But sometimes the kind of fighting we're good at may not be enough. The kind of fight we're good at may not be enough. And keep fighting. But here's the thing. Perhaps in the wilderness, perhaps the confrontation with the devil, perhaps the temptation that comes, that's the time to double down on trusting God, because God is right there with you. To double down and do like Jesus did. Point to God, worship God, quote God, just be God, God, God. And as we undertake this journey back to the loving embrace of God, I pray for each and every one of us that in our wilderness wandering, we will remember that there is nothing the devil can offer us that God hasn't already provided. And the God promises to provide. May it be so, and have a good Lent.